University of Chicago telling its new students, suck it up. The school's dean of students sending out a letter to incoming freshmen that reads in part, we do not support so-called trigger warnings. We do not cancel invited speakers because their topics might prove controversial. And we do not condone the creation of intellectual safe spaces. Fox Business Network correspondent Jeff Flock is live on the University of Chicago campus. Jeff, are you in a safe space to report this?
Apparently I'm not. Even with a Fox Business microphone here, we're being treated pretty well at the U of C, which is one of, Kimberly, the world's most prestigious universities. That letter that you just read from, pretty blunt. I want to give you another passage of that. That was sent to the class of 2020. It says, in part, members of our community are encouraged to speak, write, listen, challenge, and learn without fear of censorship. At times, this may challenge you and even cause discomfort. The university saying that while a lot of other universities around the country have sought to minimize that discomfort, that's what education is all about. You may remember earlier this year, the speaker Ben Shapiro, conservative journalist, had problems at Cal State LA. They tried to cancel his appearance because they were afraid it would cause protests. Here in Chicago at DePaul University across town, actually there were protests at his speech. A lot of students were prohibited from being able to hear that speech. They don't want that kind of thing to happen here at the U of C. I point out, Kimberly, this is a private university. In addition to being one of the most prestigious in the world, it's one of the hardest to get into. It also has an endowment of $7.5 billion. And they apparently don't have to be subject to the political winds that some state universities and colleges have to deal with. They say here, PC is okay, non-PC is okay.
Right, I like that. I like to hear this, and I had Ben Shapiro on. He went on the record last night. We were talking about this very topic, and, you know, I didn't get any protests, by the way. When I went to Cornell and gave a speech, I was well received, and that's the third most, liberal school in the country. So, but I'm glad you're being treated well
there. Most places do use common sense, don't they? They treat people like normal people. Most people do that, but, you know, there are a few.
Yes, open our ears and our minds, give people a chance to differ on opinions and express themselves. Jeff, thanks for that report. And Matthew Foldy, University of Chicago, president of College Republicans, goes on the record. Thanks for being with us tonight. So we just had that report talking about the school and saying, listen, come here, open your mind, be able to express yourself, and you're not going to find safe spaces.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. I think that what's important to understand about the letter that was just sent out to all the freshmen is that, you know, Dean Ellison brought a very important issue to the forefront of national discussion right now. And the University of Chicago comes from a long and storied tradition of staunch support for free speech going back decades. And the other components that all of the incoming class of 2020 received was a book written by the dean of the college, John Boyer, that goes into extensive detail about our history with free speech going back to the 1930s, 1960s. And I think what gave the administration a sense of urgency in dealing with this issue right now was we had several events on our campus. You had mentioned others in the report just now in other campuses, but we had several events on our campus shut down by protesters. And for a campus such as ours that values free speech as much as we do, that was shocking to a lot of students, faculty, and the administration. So I think that kind of spurred the administration into action by sending out this letter.
Yeah, and Matthew, I want to remind our viewers that back in May that you proposed a free speech resolution for the student government there. What inspired you to do that? Were you seeing a problem that you were encountering, so there was a need, therefore, to move forward compellingly to make sure that there was free speech and it was being respected?
Definitely. We have this history of supporting free speech, and we had two events before I proposed that resolution. One that was shut down, Anita Alvarez, and the other that was shut down was Bassam Eid. I was at the Eid event, and one of the protesters in attendance shouted at him that he was going to blow up his car. And I was sitting there in the audience, and I was astonished that this kind of concept that I've read all about in terms of students shutting down events had come to our campus. And in the course of proposing this resolution, that I had attracted the support of around 50 faculty members from the complete ideological spectrum. To see it ultimately tabled indefinitely by student government was kind of shocking to me, and I learned a lot about just how much our institution has meant to free speech. And, you know, to see this happen on our campus, I was talking with administration after, and I think they realized just how important kind of sending this message to students before they even got to campus would be.
You know, and you got to eventually leave college and go into the real world and into private practice and into the free market, and they're not going to give you, nap time in a safe space in the corner by the water cooler. You've got to prepare kids to get the education and work hard and, be able to protect themselves and stick up for themselves and not be looking for other people to do it. Matthew,
Exactly.
I know you've attended a few of Greta's town halls, and we appreciate that most certainly. We want to thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, stay strong.